Welcome. This presentation is for you as a new employee on behalf of the owners, administrators, staff, and residents of this facility. We're going to cover basic safety practices. Some of what we are going to cover are for specific departments and specific job assignments. And we're also going to go over some general practices that are going to apply to everyone. So you might be asking yourself, why do I want to know or need to know information about other departments and other jobs other than just my own? And really the answer is pretty simple. A skilled care or assisted living facility is a very interdependent operation. Everything somebody does or doesn't do affects everyone else to some degree. So the management of this facility believes that you need to know something about what everyone does. This is the basis for real teamwork. Your facility is really like a small community, and your actions affect not only you, but also your fellow workers, the residents in your care, and reflects on your facility to the public. The whole point of this safety orientation is to reduce accidents as much as possible. To do that, everyone needs to know the difference between safe and unsafe behavior and make a commitment to always work as safely as possible to reduce accidents and injuries. Keep in mind that most accidents are avoidable. We'll begin with specific safety practices in housekeeping, then we're going to proceed to laundry, dietary, nursing, maintenance, and administration. We'll conclude with a review of hazards that are common to skilled care and assisted living facilities so that you can learn to recognize and, most importantly, to avoid them. Housekeeping plays a major role in our facilities. The housekeeping staff covers virtually every square inch of the building. Housekeeping staff encounter a number of common hazards. So let's go over safe housekeeping practices. Let's start with storage. Housekeeping staff must store chemicals, carts, buckets, vacuum cleaners, mops, and brooms, among other things. Floor technicians have to store floor waxers, strippers, and buffers. So here's some rules for housekeeping storage. Do not park or store equipment close to the intersection of hallways or close to doors leading into a hallway, as this presents trip hazards. Store chemicals and other packaged products on shelves in utility closets and keep the floor free of debris and trip hazards. Keep the utility closet floor dry. Slippery floors are one of the leading causes of accidents. Housekeepers must also be aware of the dangers of biological and chemical exposures, and let's briefly look at each one. Protection against biological exposures require universal precaution. This includes the use of disposable latex gloves, biological disinfectants, bread isolation bags, spill kits, and hand washing. In some cases where a resident may be in isolation, you may be required to wear a disposable gown and a face shield. In hopper rooms, you may be required to wear body protection and use a face shield. Before you start, read the precautions and instructions listed for each area you work in and for each task you perform. Handling and using cleaning chemicals can be dangerous. Full-strength cleaners and disinfectants can cause eye injury, skin damage, and most are poisonous if they're ingested. Protection against chemical exposure is required in this facility. You must know the dangers and proper handling of chemicals by reading the safety data sheets or reading and understanding the information on the labels. You must wear personal protective equipment. You must know how to locate and use eye wash stations. More detailed training will be provided to you before you begin your job. And here are some tips for the safe handling of housekeeping carts. Keep them in good condition. Check wheels and locks. Don't park near corners. And keep enough wet floor signs and supplies on the cart, but be sure not to overload the cart with items. Now to mopping. The rule is when you mop a floor, you mop in halves. That way folks can travel on the dry half of the hallway. And note the arrow and the word caution on the sign. Sometimes some of the wording might get worn off. So if you're using a wet floor sign, make sure that all the wording is easily readable. Not everyone will know if the direction of the arrow points to the wet floor or the path to take around the wet floor, unless the directions on the sign are clear and legible. Another rule, wet floor signs must be placed at all doorways and hallways into common areas that have been mopped. If you see a spill on the floor and you know that it is not biological, alert housekeeping and stand guard near that area. If you're not sure of the nature of the fluid, use caution. Spills can contain blood or other potentially infectious material. Use an approved spill kit, and only if you're trained to do so. Dispose of the material properly in a biohazard bag. Proper handling, storage, and disposal of biohazard waste is regulated by local, state, and federal law. All biohazard waste not in a Sharps container must be placed in the required red bag. The bag must be placed in an approved box or container. The box or container must be stored in a secured, isolated area with access limited to trained personnel only. The container or box must have a lid or cover on it when it's not in use. The isolated area must have clean, dry floors free from debris, and storage must be free from pests, rodents, and other stored materials. And the door to the storage area must have a universal precaution sign on it. Here's what housekeeping closets should look like, both clean and organized. Without debris, objects are clutter on the floor, and you should treat your work area as if it were part of your home. Laundry from residence in isolation require special precautions. Red or yellow bags are required, and there will be containers marked for these specific purposes. Ask your supervisor if you're not sure how to handle the items. Don't guess. Chemicals used in laundry include industrial strength detergents that can cause eye injury, contact dermatitis, and are poisonous if ingested. So you must know the dangers and proper handling of chemicals by reading the safety data sheets or reading and understanding the information on the labels. You must wear the appropriate personal protective equipment, and you must know how to locate and use eye wash stations. And more detailed training will be provided to you before you begin your job. Laundry chemicals must be stored in a clean, dry area. Keep chemical containers off bare floors and never stack the containers. Probably the most dangerous equipment in your facility is located in the kitchen. Slicers are made to slice. Mixers are made to beat and grind. Knives are made to cut. And they can do the same job on your hand or finger that they can do on food. Make sure you know how to use the equipment. Make sure that the guards are in working order, and please don't remove them to save a little time. Also, make sure you are operating the equipment from a position that you will not get pushed, elbowed, or bumped by a passing worker. Good hygiene is part of your job. Thoroughly wash your hands with soap and warm water before you prepare or handle food. Always remember to wear your hairnet and remind others. Kitchen floors are dangerous. It's difficult to keep them dry during food preparation, and most kitchens are very crowded with busy staff. So mop up spills, walk with your feet spread apart, watch out for others, and wear good slip-resistant shoes. Improper storage leads to far too many injuries from falling objects as well as back and shoulder strains. Here is a simple tip for storing things properly. Store bulky, heavy objects on the middle shelves, not the top shelf. It's much harder to control a bulky or heavy object when you're reaching over your head. So here's another tip. If you're not sure you can handle it by yourself, get help. It only takes a second. Use the knife storage rack to store knives in an upright position. Avoid storing knives in drawers. Keep the blades of all equipment sharp and undamaged and replace them when they get worn. Remember, dull tools can't do the work. We once heard a dietary manager tell her staff, "Your hands are not made of asbestos." Don't assume that a plate or a tray is cool. Take the time to get hot pads. Burns can be very, very serious and very painful. Scalds account for a high percentage of injuries in dietary, and they can also be very painful and slow to heal. Here's a few common sense tips to help prevent scalds. If it's a bulky, wide pan, get help and take a second to plan the move. Place your feet shoulder width apart so that you have a good balance. Don't be rushed, and watch for others around you. When you see broken glass, two simple rules apply. Sweep it up immediately, and don't pick up broken glass or ceramic material, for that matter, with your bare hands. We know skilled care facilities have one of the highest nursing staff injury rates across all businesses and industries in the United States. Most reported nursing staff injuries are due to resident lifting, transfers, and repositioning. In our facility, we take the utmost care to provide the CNAs and nursing staff with adequate lifting, transfer, and repositioning equipment, as well as training and planning. Lifting, repositioning, and transfer require dedication, teamwork, training, and commitment to following established procedures. So if you're involved in these activities, know the lifting and transfer requirements for each resident and follow it. Never lift alone. Make sure you know the equipment, and if you don't, get familiar with it before you use it, and follow the training. Use good body mechanics, team lifting, and take enough time so that you're doing it safely. Follow precautions when you're moving residents. For residents in wheelchairs, back through the doorway or onto an elevator and move slowly and methodically. Use gait belts and use them properly. When assisting and lifting a resident from a chair, use a second person to assisting is going to be a lot safer than trying to do it by yourself. And if you're transporting residents in a van, follow all the instructions in the Powered Lift Manual. Universal precautions. Everyone knows about it, so let's all practice it. Know where the designated sinks are located. Lather up and wash your hands thoroughly following an exposure. Don't eat, drink, apply cosmetics, lip balm, or lipstick, and don't change contact lenses in any area where biohazard material may be stored. Nursing equipment such as wheelchairs, lifts, and repositioning pads are tough and rugged equipment designed to withstand a lot of use. But they have to be used correctly and do occasionally require maintenance. So check your equipment before you use it. Make sure your lift has the property capacity to accommodate the weight of that particular resident. Inspect the pads and make sure that they're in good condition. And if any equipment isn't working properly, don't use it. Let maintenance know and get it fixed. And don't forget to lock the wheels on wheelchairs when they're not moving. Our facility depends on proper maintenance of our building, but maintenance goes beyond just the physical structure. Equipment has to be maintained. State regulations regarding water temperatures and national fire protection codes for life safety have to be met. Maintenance has the responsibility to take a major role in evacuation, fire awareness, and response training. In our facility, we have adopted the OSHA Safety-Related Work Practices Guidelines for the safest possible maintenance operations. This includes things like ladder safety, electrical safety, lockout tagout, tool safety, chemical safety, and even elements of the exposure control program. A complete series of webinar videos on safety-related maintenance practices are available on the ACET member website. If you think that there are hazards associated with office work, but you know what? Think again. We know that injuries have occurred in offices, things like tripping over an open file cabinet drawer, cutting fingers from using scissors as letter openers, and falling when using a chair for a ladder. Not a good idea. In addition, administrative and office personnel have been involved in slip and trips walking down the facility hallways, running into parked objects, and getting back strains from moving office files without using good lifting techniques or carts. So if your job assignment is primarily in the office, don't assume that you're automatically safe. Stay alert. Avoid unsafe shortcuts and assess the conditions before you act. Part of your training will involve your participation in how to react in the event of fires, tornadoes, threats of violence, and other types of threats. Each person has an assignment to protect our residents, facility, and fellow workers. Your job is to know your assignment and take the drills and training seriously. Your training and your reactions could save someone's life, including your own. Stairs and hallways are hazardous areas. Stairs have standard handrails for a purpose, to keep you from falling. Our facility is a very busy place, and hallway intersections can be a magnet for collisions, especially during busy mornings, lunchtime, and evening meals. So be aware. Slow down and watch intersections for people and things like buffers, wheelchairs, and carts. We mentioned earlier exposure control and universal precautions. We emphasized the importance of hand washing, personal protective equipment, and proper handling and disposal of biohazard waste. So here are a few other tips if your job assignment is direct resident care. First, don't overfill a sharps container. Only fill to the fill line. Close it until the latches engage when it is filled. Red bag your gloves if they have been exposed and place them in the designated biohazard waste container. Don't drop them on the floor and therefore leave them for someone else to pick up. Only use approved safety needles and don't leave them in a bed sheet, or worse yet, put them in your pocket. Floors can be slippery, so we have a footwear policy in our facility. You are not allowed to wear certain types of shoes, such as smooth or hard soles with no traction grooves. High heel footwear is strictly prohibited. Please don't be a fool for fashion. Wear proper shoes. Check with your supervisor or administrator if you're not sure. We have continuous flow eye wash stations in laundry, dietary, and other locations throughout the facility. Know how to use them. If you have to use one, adjust the flow for comfort. Take your time and don't hurry. Let the water flow do its job. Also know where the eye wash stations are located. Light fixtures are required to have protective globes for incandescent fixtures and covers or sleeves for fluorescent tube fixtures. So why is that? Well, let me give you an example. Imagine a housekeeper goes into a utility room with a mop and doesn't see a naked bulb with a protective globe that's missing. Perhaps the globe was removed to change the bulb and the person who changed it simply forgot to put the globe back on. Now imagine what would happen if the housekeeper struck the globe with the mop handle and looked up at the same time. It would not be a pretty sight. So if you see a globe left off a fixture, notify maintenance immediately. Shower and bath floors are hazardous and slippery by nature. You must take every precaution if you're assigned to these areas. Here are some tips. First, wear proper footwear. Slow down and move methodically. And keep your feet shoulder width apart, your steps short, and walk like a duck. One of the things that sets our staff apart is their commitment to their safety program. That commitment means that they look out for each other and for the residents in their care. One of the great things we do here is to recognize hazards and get the hazards eliminated. This includes the hazards of unsafe behaviors. If one of our staff sees a behavior like the one in this picture, they will intervene. They'll stop it and gently remind the offender that they are risking getting injured. Sometimes unsafe behavior is hard to see until you study it a little. Can you see what the hazard is in this picture? Maybe check out the person sitting at the edge of the desk. What about this one? And here we've provided a helpful arrow if you didn't notice it immediately. You know, the legendary coach of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, once said that no one is a team by themselves. We certainly know that is true in our facility. Even when we're doing our own tasks, we're always looking out to see if we can do it better and safer together. We're not afraid to ask for help because we know we will gladly get help from one of our team members. So I can imagine in this particular case, the gentleman saying, "Hey, pal, watch out, I'm coming behind you." This is our attitude. We believe that we are only working at our best when we're looking out for one another. One thing that all team members know is that they can always find another member to help them if they have a question. We're never afraid to ask or help answer a question. That's the essence of teamwork, sharing good information. As you go about your daily tasks, take a moment now and then to think about what you're going to do and how to do it safely and professionally. Then take a little pride in knowing that you're a valued member of your facility team. If you need more information about the safety program in our facility, ask one of your safety team members or your supervisor. We have a formal safety program and a safety manual in our facility, and it is everyone's safety manual. You will do a lot of important things in your job. One really important thing you can do is to set an example. We know that you will be a valuable part of your facility team, so we want to be the first to welcome you aboard. This presentation has been brought to you by this facility and all the member facilities of the Arkansas Self-Insurance Trust.